Welcome to Seeking Alpha's CEO Interviews. Quality of leadership is a decisive factor in stock performance, so we provide in-depth interviews with the best and brightest CEOs in the public markets. We publish limited excerpts from our interviews on social media platforms and the full interviews at seekingalpha.com and in the highly rated Seeking Alpha mobile app. To find the full interviews, open seekingalpha.com or the Seeking Alpha mobile app and search for the phrase CEO Interviews, or simply type a stock ticker into the search box.
Welcome to CEO Interview. I'm your host, Jesse Redmond. I'm joined today by William Trainer, CEO of Vicinity Motor Corp. William, thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me today.
William, let's start out talking about your background and how did you end up as CEO of Vicinity?
Yeah, well, it goes back in 2008. There was a RFI that come out from the local transit authorities and Canadian transit authorities. They were looking for somebody to build a mid-sized bus, and my background really fit into it. We had a group of some of my partners and I put together a proposal, and I was the one best suited to really lead the group. My background goes back into, I've had heavy construction dealerships in the Pacific Northwest up here, owned and operated them for years, and had a very strong manufacturing background. We did a lot of joint ventures in the past with companies like Komatsu and Hitachi, and even out of Korea, out of Samsung, and where we'd build custom construction equipment for basically the forestry and oil fields up here in the Pacific Northwest. So that was my background, and when we wanted to expand outward and there was a need for a mid-sized bus, it fit my background extremely well to lead the group here.
And was something about buses or the transportation sector that particularly interested you, or what was it about it that drew you really to the opportunity set?
Well, I've always been an entrepreneur. So when this opportunity come up, it really fit into the group and it fit into my background extremely well. So, I took the lead and of pushing forward and developing the product.
Great. And so in terms of your style as a manager, you've obviously had a lot of success over your career, most recently as CEO. Stock's been doing great, company's been doing great. How would you describe your management style?
Well, it's more relaxed. You need to have a very good group around you. You've got to surround yourself with really high talented individuals, and then really have an open door policy. We're building. We're still at the ground level where we're still expanding and building. So you need to have a very open mind and have an open door policy where you can communicate well with your senior staff.
And can you give me an example of that, or maybe an incident that occurred where that was beneficial for you?
Well, you're working closely. I'm more of a hands-on type of guy, so I really like to work closely with the group. So we have senior management meetings on a weekly basis, but there's always things that come up every day where you need to be involved in. And like I say, my door's open, and I have senior management coming in every single day, asking questions and giving guidance.
Okay. And is there any particular trait besides the open door policy that you would attribute your success to? Would you say you like to build a flatter organization? Would you say that you prefer more structure? Are there any traits to the types of organizations that you'd like to build?
Well, we like a very structured organization. As you grow, you start off with a minimal amount of people, 20 people. I think we have 52 employees up here right now. So you need a very structured environment around you. I like to state, you've got to bring the people that you need to actually achieve the direction that I set the company in. One of our recent hires here, we brought in a fellow by the name of Manuel Achadina, just a superior individual, very talented on operations. He was actually president and CEO of BC Transit when we entered into the first agreement to build a bus. But I think that's key. You got to surround yourself with top quality individuals that have the same work ethics.
And are there any traits that you look for besides, the specifics of their background, but more of a higher level in terms of when you're hiring people? Are there any particular traits that you generally look for in folks?
Well, yeah, I like individuals that are hardworking. You need to have a core atmosphere in the group. You know, you want your people all to work well together, and I think that's key.
Right. So teamwork, collaboration is a big part.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great. Well, let's jump into the product a little bit. I think the name is kind of descriptive in terms of Vicinity Motor Corp. You're in the bus business per se, which doesn't sound that sexy, but actually is a pretty interesting thing these days, especially when you tie in the electrical part to it. So can you just give us a high level overview of Vicinity and what the actual product is?
Sure. Well, we recently just had a name change. We changed the name to Vicinity Motor Corp, and that's really to, you know, bring in the vision of what we are. We are you know, a motor corporation. We've been adding a lot of different products. We recently just added a product this morning, which I'll get into a little later if you'd like. But yeah, it's just the Vicinity Motor Corp, and the bus division might not, like I said, sound sexy, but you know, for us, we always wanted to build a product that really meets the customer needs. And I think that's what we've achieved with our product lineup.
Can you dig into the product lineup a little bit in terms of the types of, in terms of both the sizes that you offer, then also the, do you call them the engine options, or in terms of what's actually driving the bus? You have the compressed natural gas option, you have some diesel, you're moving into the electric. Can you talk a little bit about the fleet from that perspective?
Yeah, sure. So when we enter the market, you got to go back to really the ground roots. When we developed the product, we wanted a mid-size bus, and that was the need in the local transit authorities, and people were asking for a mid-size because traditionally, when you look at the bus industry, the workhorse of the industry is a 40-foot bus. The 40-foot bus is extremely wide. It's 102 inches wide, you know, 40 feet wide or 40 feet long. It's very tall. It's cumbersome. And really what the industry was looking for was a really well-designed product that was a mid-size. When you say mid-size, you're usually talking around a 30-foot or just over or under that configuration. But the vehicle really, it's got to be designed to get into the communities. And that's where it becomes very interesting. When you say get into the communities, if you want to make an impact with a transit service, you know, you got to go and you got to pick the customers up in their neighborhoods, in their residential neighborhoods where they live. Otherwise, people get in their car, and if they're going to a park and ride, a lot of them just choose to carry on. So if you want to get the cars off the road, you got to go pick the people up in the local communities, and that's where ours really shines. You know, we developed a product, this mid-sized product, where if you look at what was in the industry with a 40-foot unit, the OEMs at the time were offering a smaller vehicle, but they were really only taking 10 feet out of the middle of a 40-foot bus. So it really didn't accomplish what the industry wanted, being able to get into those residential areas. So we built a very nimble, a very compact. It's you know, our bus traditionally is only 98 inches, so it's a lot narrower. It's a lot lighter. It's built with component size, particularly for that vehicle. And that's key. So when you look at it, you know, the engine doesn't have to be as big, the transmission doesn't have to be as big, the components doesn't have. So if you take the 40-foot, you take 10 feet out of it, you really got a big cumbersome vehicle that doesn't go into the neighborhoods well. So that's what we had to design. And, you know, our design process of bringing that bus to life, you know, we entered into a strategic partnership with the province of BC, with BC Transit here, really to design what they were looking for that product. And it's been a great success. You know, if you look at our Canadian marketplace, when we introduced the product and brought it out and launched it, we have over 90% market share in the range, that mid-size range that we compete in. And there's a reason for that, is because it was purpose built. It was built specifically, you know, for those items that I'm saying, to get into those communities. But also it had to be, you know, strong enough to actually drive on the freeway and get in between communities. So it's we think we've brought to market just the perfect little vehicle. And like I say, it's been very successful here in Canada. You know, now, you know, our challenge is we're trying to take the success we've had on the Canadian side and push that into the US side. We should have the same success down there. So that's what we've recently launched, is trying to push and be successful in the US. We've strengthened we've really strengthened our sales distribution, aligned ourselves with some really powerhouses to get the vehicle out to the market. We've announced recently that we're putting a factory in Washington State
Mm-hmm.
actually to build the product. And that's key to really getting in and getting into that US market. You know, a lot of the tenders that we compete on are what they say FTA funded. So it's got to be, you know, it's got to meet the Buy America qualifications. That Buy America qualification sets out that, you know, you need to build the product in the US. So that's where that factory comes in. The other thing is you need to have 70% US content. We check that box. The other item is you need to have an Altoona test. There's a test performed by the Federal Transportation Administration down in Altoona, Pennsylvania, where they actually take the vehicle and put a, you know, an extended life cycle test on it and then give a report card on it. You know, our vehicles, the ones we have tested to date, were best in class. So, you know, now we're trying to take the success we had on the Canadian side and push that onto the US side. And a lot of the US customers, they want to see that you can produce and make a vehicle coming out of the factory. It gives them, you know, it gives them that sense of that you're going to be you're in business, and you know you've had a major investment in the community, and you're there to stay. And that's what we're really trying to portray with our factory down in the States.
So the 40-foot all electric is your flagship model, is that correct?
No, we have a mid-size 30-foot. So we've always really tried to dominate or, you know, stay in that mid-size range. So
Okay.
the mid-size range is usually 28 to about 35 feet. And it, like I said, it's a lighter duty vehicle than the heavy duty vehicles. And then, you know, recently we announced and we electrified our mid-size vehicle. And this
Mhm.
is where it gets extremely exciting. I think, you know, that we're trying to, you know, give the investor community really what we've come out with. You know, if you were to go to our website, you know, vicinitybus.com, you'd see, you know, we've got the EV up and front and center there. You know, the industry's pushing towards electric. I think what we've done is we've really brought a vehicle into the market that, again, hits exactly what the customers want. We really paid attention to the industry, and we developed the product as a purpose-built unit. And in doing so, it allowed us to really open our engineering capabilities. So we went a different path with our electric vehicle. We went really modeled ourselves over what model ourselves aligned with what the automotive industry was doing. And I think this is really key. You know, the automotive industry, if you look, you know, Tesla is definitely the leader in, you know, pushing the EV cars in the US. But in the EV or in the automotive industry, you know, when you're an OEM, automotive OEM, you set your sights on 1 million vehicles. You know, that's really what you want to get your product lineup up to. And that does a lot of things. That brings in, you know, the scalability and the price of the components. It brings it all down in line. Where if you look in the commercial side, particularly, you know, on the bus side, it doesn't have that the numbers. So the component pricing is generally a lot more on the commercial side. So we aligned ourselves more with the automotive. We did some unique things on our bus. You know, we partnered, one of our supply partners is actually LionSmart, that produces or supplies the BMW batteries.
Mm-hmm.
You know, our first choice definitely would have been Tesla. They don't provide batteries out to the industry. But that battery is, you know, the second largest amount of volume battery that's being produced. It's, I think they have over 500,000 out in their automobile industry. It's a very compact battery. It's 400 volts, which is key. The automotive industry really has pushed into the 400 volt battery range. But having the 400 volt really allows you to charge it. And if you look at a Tesla car, you know, the Tesla car comes with an onboard charger. It's sold with the plug, so you can bring the vehicle home and actually plug it into your standard residential home grid, which is 240 volt. You know, most homes have 100 or 200 amp service. So you can plug it into a standard electrical 240 volt socket and charge it overnight. And that's really what we wanted to do with our vehicle. So we wanted to have it ease of use so the customers could actually buy the vehicle, buy it at a competitive price, bring it to their location and actually charge it. If you look at the commercial side, and what a lot of our competition has done is by going on the commercial side of the batteries, they're usually 600 to 800 volts. A lot of those batteries have to be charged with a very robust infrastructure. It needs three-phase power. If you look at three-phase power charging, the industrial, generally three-phase power is found in an industrial site. It's not in your standard residential or in your standard home grid site. So you need to, if we're looking at a commercial vehicle that a lot of our competitors sell, the 40-foots definitely sell upwards to about $1 million. But the transit authorities, when they're buying it, they usually have to factor in $500,000 per vehicle to bring the infrastructure in, to bring the charging grid in,
Wow.
to actually charge it. So, for us, what we tried to achieve is, one, keeping it simple, keeping it so it can be charged at any location. And use an example, a shuttle operator that's running out of the airports, like a hotel shuttle operator or something like that. They could purchase this vehicle, take it back when it's in their peak use, when they get the calls and they're picking their customers up, but they can bring it back and just plug it into a standard plug in front of their facility, and keep it charged up. The charging that we have, will allow it with the standard plug to charge it on an overnight charge, 6-7 hours on an overnight charge, and then the vehicle should be able to get 250 miles, which is pretty ample for most applications. But the other thing that we did is we're really staying with the automotive style components, is the batteries. The BMW batteries that we're buying, they're only 7 inches thick, because they're cooled with the with the gas charge that you use in your AC unit in your car. So most of the commercial units, they're cooled with a water glycol mixture. So they're a lot heavier, they're a lot thicker. They're usually 12 to 14 inches thick. So by staying with the automotive style batteries, it allowed us to engineer the bus and develop the bus so that the batteries could go in the low floor section. And I think this is really key in what separates us, and really I think what makes us quite compelling out there to the customer base, is that it's got a low center of gravity. So the vehicle handles extremely well, where a lot of the competitors on the commercial side, when they're going with the 600 or 800 volt batteries, they're so thick that they're challenged where they can put it. They can't put it in the low floor section of the bus, or you've got steps to get into it, and you defeat your ability to be a low floor, ease of use vehicle that's easily accessible for anybody with the disabilities or EDA compliances. And they put their batteries, because they're challenged where they can put them, they put them on the roof. So it becomes a very top heavy vehicle. So, we think we've come up with just something that's just utterly amazing for the market. The other thing that, you talked earlier about, how you develop something, and, when we look at when we're developing a product, we usually try to work from the top down. So when I say that, is we look at it, we say, what price do we want this vehicle to come to market for? Where's the market research leading us? And where it led us on this is that a standard diesel bus would sell at around $250,000 US. Our bus, we've targeted to go to market at around $300,000 to $350,000. So for not very much more of an upcharge, you can actually get a vehicle that's going to do all your needs, and the cost savings that you're going to have by buying the vehicle over the competitors. The competitor priced vehicles on the commercial side are anywhere from $600,000 to $700,000 US because of the components that they're buying. So staying with the automotive industry, that we wanted to, it's brought the component pricing down and allowed us to get that price range. So when we look at our vehicle, we feel our vehicle is one of the few vehicles that you can build a compelling business case. And when I say that, you can say, okay, $250 for a diesel bus, $350 for electric. Your maintenance costs are lower. You don't have to put any fuel in it anymore. You can build a solid business case on it, where when you're looking at the $700,000 vehicles that are coming out, there's not much of a business case. There's a subsidy case. So you need to have, the funding in order to get the vehicle into your fleet. But we've developed ours really to hit the market, because the U.S. market is, you've got 50% private and you got 50% public. So definitely we compete well in the on the public side, but on the private side, we think we're just gonna dominate the market space.
Can you give me an example of a private buyer for these types of units?
Well, sure. So when we look at any public buyer is somebody that's applying for FTA funding. So that's generally a government agency, which would be a transit authority, primarily be transit authorities in the U.S. But when you look at a private buyers, colleges, universities, theme parks, shuttle operators, shuttle operators being, car shuttle operators, car rental vehicles, hotel shuttle operators, anybody that's actually using it in the shuttle application, they don't qualify for the FTA funded projects. So, and that's 50% of the business that we're targeting in the U.S. So we think we've really honed our market down to where the vehicle that we've brought to life really makes sense. The other thing that we've done on our electric vehicle that sets us aside from the competition is that we looked at the weight of the vehicle, and our GVWR is actually under 24,500 pounds. And this was key because if we kept the weight down, we can actually put hydraulic brakes on it. And again, we looked at the market and looked at what a lot of the market leaders were doing. You look at the school bus industry, they use hydraulic brakes so that the driver's ease of use. So our vehicle can be sold and you would not have to apply and have a commercial air brake ticket license to actually drive the vehicle. You can drive it with more of an easier licensing in hydraulic brakes. And I think that's another, quite a unique selling feature for us.
And in terms of the experience at for lack of a better term, the consumer or the rider, I don't know what the industry term is for the person that's the passenger perhaps on the bus. My experience with buses has always been that it's loud. It generally smells from the emissions. Sometimes the brakes make these horrible sounds because it's so heavy and it's trying to slow this massive bus. It's not a terrible experience, but it's not a super comfortable experience. With these newer electrical buses, is it a better experience for the passenger as well?
Oh yes, it's unbelievable experience for the passenger. You don't have the noise, but the key thing here is you want the environmental impact that you're actually creating. I've read reports, for every bus that goes on the street, upwards to 30 or 40 vehicles are taken off the street, which actually helps as well. But having a zero emissions vehicle makes sense today. It just makes perfect sense. We're still seeing some sales. We're not 100% electric yet, and that's really driven by the demand. The customers are demanding more electric vehicles, but I think we're in a very unique situation because we still have diesel buses, we still have CNG buses. A lot of our current orders that we have been for CNG, and which is compressed natural gas. And they call that a near zero emission. So it's the closest thing that you're going to get to not having a pure electric vehicle. And as the industry transitions, that's where I think for us, we're in a perfect position because we're in the market, we've been producing vehicles, and we can transition as the industry changes. Give me an example of that is. There's a lot of plans out there to convert the fleets to electric, and we think we got one of the best vehicles to do it. But a lot of these fleets, the buses are designed for a 10 or 12-year life expectancy. So even if you went out today and you got every sale that's out there, it's going to take you an awful long time to convert over to the electric. Where we have this revenue base in line while we're converting. We're still seeing orders come in for CNG buses as people are gathering up, the technology and doing their business cases to convert over to to electric vehicles. You know, our last quarter alone, we did over 27 million in revenue in Q1 this year. You know, it was a record year, a record quarter for us. And I think, you know, when we look, you know, there's definitely a lot of competition coming to market. You know, there's a lot of SPACs coming out there, a lot of people with electric vehicles coming to market, and, you know, we wish them all the best. But, you know, there's a huge barrier to entry to get in there. You know, we've been doing this now for 12 years. We have relationships in place. We have, you know, a customer satisfaction in place. We have, you know, particularly here on the Canadian side, as I say, you know, 90% market share, repeat customers. But you need that infrastructure in place too to support it. And I think that's what factors into a lot of these tenders that are coming out there. You know, not only can you have the perfect vehicle, but you got to have the infrastructure to support the vehicle. You know, traditionally, when a new vehicle is coming to market or the market's changing, what we see is that the tenders reflect upwards to 50% of the weight of the tender. You know, you know how you're going to be weighted on qualifying for the tender. 50% will be on the price, 25 will be on the spec, and 25 will be really on your support system that you have in place. As you get more developed, and we've seen this, you know, particularly on the Canadian side, and you're winning tenders, the price diminishes down and the support level comes up higher. So they'll ask for, you know, how many vehicles do you have in the market? What's your life expectancy of the vehicle? What's your life cycle costing of the vehicle? And what's your support system? You know, what's your turnover on your parts? How's your parts supply? You know, how do you get ranked from the industry for your percentage of parts? You know, are you at a 90% level? Are you a 10% level? These are factors that come in, and factors that you know, create these barriers to entry that are quite immense. And you know, we didn't realize it you know, totally when we got into the market, but we certainly learned quickly, and I think that's what separates us apart. You know, we've got revenue and we got the support system in place, and now, you know, we're really pushing hard to get our sales in the U.S. You know, one of the groups that we aligned ourselves with on the U.S. side, the ABC group of companies, I think they have between 25 and 35% of the coach market business in the U.S. They're a national company, coast to coast in the U.S., but they have that infrastructure in place, that support infrastructure. And now they're looking at, you know, bringing new product line and supporting new product line. And we signed an agreement with them to support our product and actually market our product for us in the U.S. And I think that's going to be key because, you know, in Canada, we sell direct. In the U.S., you know, we leverage off of some of those relationships that they have to get our product out and support our product. And they have the very core fundamentals as we have what it takes to look after a customer. You can get out there and get your first order, but you really need to, you know, show your support level and show what you can do to get that second order out of them. And you know, that's what we'll be leveraging off of the ABC group as well.
And can you describe the scale or scope of the Canadian market compared to the U.S. market for your products?
Yeah, the Canadian market, we don't have the private sector as much up here. You know, the airports, when you come to fly into a Canadian airport, you know, the car rental place is right there. The hotels are a lot closer. So you don't have that same level of private sales that you have in the U.S. In the U.S., you know, as I stated before, 50% is public and 50% is private.
And how many buses, do you have any metrics on how many buses are sold in the U.S. compared to the Canadian market? Is the U.S. market 5 times as big, 10 times as big? How would you describe it in that sense?
In general, you know, the U.S. market is always 10 times the size of the Canadian market. But yeah, so, you know, but also this morning we had a news release out. We news released that we'd entered into the mid-sized small truck market as well. And I think this is going to be, you know, key for some of our growth as well. You know, we looked at developing our electric bus We really spent our time on the electric bus. As I stated, we went more on the automotive side of it. To get those components on the automotive side, we really had to develop the core electrical, how you control it. You've got what they call a power distribution unit, which is really the heart of the brains of how you're going to mix and match these components, and the battery management, and the drive motors, and the regeneration, and then all of this stuff ties together. So we've developed that all in-house, and that that's key to be able to buy the components. So once we had that developed, and we have our own intellectual property, we thought, okay, how can we leverage that intellectual property onto something that'll enhance our sales? So we looked at the market, and the first thing that really come to mind was a small truck market. We look at the class 3 to 5 truck market in North America. It's over 400,000 units annually sold, which is quite amazing. And then we looked at it and honed down and said, okay, how could we take our power distribution, all the parts and pieces that we developed, and leverage that onto a small truck? And that's what we've done. We've accomplished that, and we're going to be now really launching that mid-sized truck in the class 3 and class 5 trucks throughout the North American market.
And when you think about the company, let's say you're laying down at night and maybe you can't sleep. What are the things that keep you up at night in terms of risks to the business, things that maybe may not go well, that could present more challenges for you?
Well, for us, we try to really develop a robust business plan on everything we do. What's the one thing we need? We need more sales. You always need more sales. We've got a factory firing up in the U.S. that could get maximum production of upwards to 1,000 units. How do we fill that factory up? That comes with the sales channel, and that's what we're focusing on. We really need to build that massive backlog of sales. Everything else is in place.
Is there anything on a macroeconomic basis, or political climate, or anything else that might concern you, where if the economy was to do great, would that be exceptionally good for you? If things were to turn down and we entered a bear market for a few years, do you see that having a meaningful impact on your business? Are there any sort of big picture conditions that you kind of draw out as being favorable or unfavorable for the company?
Well, no. So, we're a Canadian-based company primarily. We've set our sights on the U.S. When we set our sights on the U.S., we need that manufacturing facility in place, but also, we need a U.S. listing. We've applied to the Nasdaq. We're waiting to have confirmation for trading on the Nasdaq. I think that's what's going to be key for us, because as we grow the business, the business growth is going to come from the U.S. So we want to ensure that we get our product and our message and whatnot out to the U.S. market, and that really comes with a Nasdaq listing. That's what we're pushing for, and it also it gives you more access to capital if required as well.
Is there any time frame for that Nasdaq listing, or is it a little bit speculative?
No, it isn't. We filed our, I think it's called an F40 form. We've gone through the SEC review. We've gone through the Nasdaq review. And as far as, my last comments from my team here, from our CFO, was we're just waiting for the Nasdaq to the trading.
Well, that's exciting. It's great opportunity for you. And do people the types of investors that come to Vicinity, do you find that they're generally more interested in a bus/transportation play and some of the favorable things going on in that space, or are they looking at you more as an electric vehicle player? How would you describe what draws people in to become an investor?
Well, I think it's a bit of everything. I'd like to hope that they take a look at us and see that, as I stated earlier, we have a revenue base as we're transitioning, but definitely we're transitioning into an EV company, and have all the basis in place to do that.
Great. Well, this has been fantastic. Is there any areas that I didn't touch on that you feel like we should talk about, or any questions I didn't ask that may be helpful for folks that are looking at the company?
No, I don't think so. You know, I think you touched on everything there. We appreciate that. But you know, we just like to, the investment community just to, you know, keep their eyes out, watch us. We really feel we've got, you know, some big things on the horizon here, and, you know, we'll news release as they come available.
And for investors that are looking to stay current, is there any place that you would point them? Is your website the best place to go?
Yeah, definitely look at the website, or, you know, reach out to our investor relations firm, the MZ Group. I think it's MZ, what would just the MZ Group. I think
Okay.
it's, if you look on our website, all the details are there.
Okay, great. Well, this has been fantastic, William. I really enjoyed the conversation. I learned a lot, and I think the investors will appreciate it as well. So thank you very much for your time today.
Well, thank you for having me. We appreciate it. Thank you.